What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, and common sense. Yeah. Man, this is going to be a weird show. I don't have a lot to talk about, really. It was a slow week, bunch of stupid shit, but either way, we got to get it popping. Yeah, it's going to take some cleanup. Before we start all this, I want to make it clear. I understand that there's negative things about both parties. We have two parties in this country. It's really the crux of our problem because there's no middle ground, and they like it that way. One of the reasons why I think that a lot of Republican-run states immediately went out and banned abortion when Roe versus Wade fell was because they want to enable the Democrats to demonize the Republicans for abortion because the Republicans already have things like the open border to demonize the Democrats. And it's about keeping us in our camps. I've said this time and time again. I'm sorry if it bores you, but that's the truth. They want us in the two camps. But, in looking, projecting into the future, what these extreme beliefs are going to lead to. Frankly, I think that the left's way of thinking is the wrong way of thinking. I think if the Republicans got their way, there would be some things that were bad, but I think if the Democrats got their way, it would be much worse. And why? Because let's let Bronco explain it. The iceberg here, you got the campus protests, that's what we see, right? But beneath it is this oppressor versus oppressed, this critical race theory that's being taught. K through 12 and then into college, it's this indoctrination education. People are paying so that professors can teach the children to hate America. And down below at the bottom there, you got TikTok, which, I don't know if TikTok is nothing's 100% responsible for this problem. But I think TikTok is where they spread a lot of the information. But beneath that are the Democrats, Soros, those funders, and communism. As we saw with P. Diddy, who treated his ex-girlfriend like shit, kicked her and dragged her down a hallway. Some men, some people, let's just say, people, do want to exert control over people. I believe that Gavin Newsom got a boner for locking down California. Look at all that power he wielded. And that's what people like Soros and, on both sides, that's what they want. They want this power, this ultimate power. And what I see coming out of the left is that they do subscribe to these far left philosophies of Marxism, communism. And that's because those forms of government do give you the most control. Like monarchies, dictatorships, communists, Marxists. You get all this control, all this power. You can do whatever you want. And they have convinced people that if they were to destroy the current system and replace it with a more social solution, things would be better. But one thing I've learned about the government and health agencies and things like that, their initial statements are often wrong. I mean, I could list them, but it would take me the entire show. The things that we have found that are been told to us, hey, this is the way to go, but in reality, really wasn't such a way to go, right? We've seen it. We can all look in our own lives and see examples of advice that was just, we were led to believe that it was true. One of those things that jumps out at me is climate change, how it went from we're going to run out of gas to we're going to freeze to we're going to burn to, well, things are changing. Well, yeah, they are. But the amount of money that's been wasted in that. So recently we heard that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, found the bodies of 3 of the hostages, including the model who was paraded around in the back of the pickup truck. The UN has finally gotten around. Well, the UN was supposed to go to a hearing about sexual assault during war, but they didn't bother showing up. But they did cut the Gaza death toll figures in half, confirming Hamas is lying about casualties. Big shocker. A group that employs suicide bombers is lying. Wow. But it is what they're using right now as the cause du jour for the college students. All right, we're going to put that last brutal segment behind us and try to go on. Man, I can be a train wreck sometimes. I don't know about you, but I've got issues. Lots of people out there have what can be considered a mental illness. Okay, and that's what this next story sort of covers. But I'm bringing it forward because it's about the knee-jerk reactions. I support trans people. I think some of the policies and ways of supporting transgender people has been a bit stupid. It goes against reality. It goes against common sense. And, that's why on some issues I am against trans athletes. I think it's it's a slippery slope that just, it enables people to cheat and to take advantage. It's an exploitable situation. But here it is. This is from The Independent. I also saw this in one of the Christian newspapers. Protests in Peru after new insurance law deems transgender people mentally ill. So you can, some people came out and said, Dylan Mulvaney was going to move there, and now they've deemed it mentally ill. Okay? Let's see what the intentions were here. The move prompted pushback from some LGBT groups, including this person, Pakaya, who took to X to express his disapproval. 100 years after the decriminalization of homosexuality, the health ministry has nothing better to do than include trans people in the category of mentally ill. We demand and will not rest until it's repealed. Wow, that must be pretty bad. The human watchdog group, Human Rights Watch, said it employs obsolete classifications related to gender identity and sexual orientation that the World Health Organization replaced in the most recent International Classification of Diseases, published in 2019. Well, somewhere in this article, I think we pretty much just right back on track with the train wreck. I don't know. But anyhow, what's funny about this is that the reason it was done was so that it would be covered by health insurance. So when Pakaya here says we demand and will not rest until it's repealed, he doesn't even know what he's arguing. He just sees something and jumps on it. Look, I'm mentally ill. I have a bunch of different things wrong with me. Not only am I an addict, but I'm also on the spectrum, whatever that means nowadays. I've been medicated for anxiety and depression. Back in the days when not everybody had it. I was on an island all by myself. Whew. It is what it is. But of course, the knee-jerk reaction is to express disapproval over something that's meant to benefit that community. One of the guys from Daily Wire, Michael Knowles, noted the irony. It prompted outrage, but there's an irony because Peru did not declare transgenderism or mental illness to own libs or anything like that. He declared it so that the people who suffer from this, as he says, confusion, can get medical treatment. It's called gender dysphoria. I mean, if you are essentially born a certain way, you shouldn't be discriminated against. The reason why something like big giant earrings is not necessarily covered is because that was your choice. If you by birth were born with gender dysphoria, you need to be able to get treatment for that. You need to. And if it's not covered by insurance because it's not an illness, then make it an illness. I don't understand why they're up in arms. The irony is the declaration was meant to mollify and pacify the LGBT elements of the community. And they were angry about it because they're angry about everything. They're always screaming and crying and demanding more nonsense. And that's what we see here. This isn't even making Peru an outlier to say that it's a mental illness. It is here in America currently defined as mental illness. Sounds bad, but that's what it is. And the reason why it needs to be listed as an illness is so that insurance companies will pay for it, so that government programs will pay for it. But the knee-jerk reaction is to quickly denounce anything because you're like, hey, it sounds bad. And then on the right, you can go around and say, oh, look, see, they said they were mentally ill. Well, lots of people are mentally ill. That doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. That means that they need help. Speaking of needing help, the people who help at the border charities using taxpayer money for big salaries, music therapy, and people plant programs. This is just awesome. More taking from the government because you think you're doing something good, or you can convince them that you're doing something good, and then just blowing it. Look, right here they're talking about the combined revenue of the top NGOs. I'm not 100% sure what that means. I'll look it up and put it down here. Global Refuge, Southwest Key Programs and Endeavors, Inc. skyrocketed from 597 million to 2 billion. Boy, I wonder what changed in those years. So they're getting all this money, and where is it going? In 2021, Endeavors paid a music therapist $500,000. $500,000 for music therapists for people at the border? What the hell? Across this country, schools are losing their music departments. This has been going on for decades now. Meanwhile, they're just spending $500,000 on musical therapists for people who are trying to cross into the country illegally. Migrant children are getting pet therapy, horticultural therapy, music therapy. What are your kids getting? This, and it gets more and more ridiculous. Their annual salaries are exceeding $500,000. The chief executive of Southwest Key earned over $1 million. Maybe I'm sure it's naive to think this, but if you're running a charity, shouldn't you be a little more closer to a nonprofit as an individual? No, it's not the way it works anymore. You take a problem, you claim to have a solution, you get $1 million salary. But they're not doing anything to try to stem the flow. They're providing music therapy, for God's sakes. This is, I mean, yes, here in the United States, we do have a responsibility to take care of unaccompanied minors under the age of 18. Okay? I get that. I'm all for that. Fine. They showed up at the border. They're trying to cross illegally. They have no right to be here, but fine. Fine. Let's do our best for them. Okay? Let's do our best for them. But when you're just blowing money that could be used to help actual citizens, it's ridiculous. It's not common sense. It's not reality. And what Jessica Vaughn here, the policy study director at the Center for Immigration Studies, voiced criticism of the administration's handling of public funds, pointing to a deficit in accountability and a disinterest in addressing the issue effectively. Boom. And what she says has changed. What is new under Biden is the amount of taxpayer money being awarded, the lack of accountability for performance, and the lack of interest in solving the problem. See, this is why I think the Democrats taking total control would be worse than the Republicans taking total control. Because they would just enrich their own people. And they would gaslight us into believing that they're doing the noble thing. I'm bringing this one up because this is a legit concern of mine. I am a nationalist. Not to say, I'm a violent nationalist or anything like that, but I believe in America, all right? I believe in America first. I kind of believe in America only. But I extend my America from Canada to the tip of South America. I'm going to say Argentina, but I'm probably wrong. But I don't like the United Nations. I don't like the World Health Organization. I don't really like anything with the name world in it. All right? One thing that I've learned in my 50 plus years here is that countries will take advantage of us. And that absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is from the Telegraph overseas here. Nigel Farage, we must be prepared to leave WHO over pandemic treaty. He's talking about the Brits here. They are proposing a pandemic treaty that would be legally binding to all 194 member nations and is pushing for mandatory lockdowns and vaccinations. And they're going to make a decision by the end of May. Britain should leave the World Health Organization rather than hand it the power to force the country into lockdown during pandemics, Nigel Farage has said. He's the president of Reform UK. He described the World Health Organization as a failing, expensive, unelected, unaccountable supranation body that wants to run roughshod over nation states by dictating health policies. And see, under the guise of health policies, you can also do things climate related or equity and DEI related too. You could. Look, you can link things to that. You could say, oh, people have higher stress levels, therefore they have more heart disease because they're discriminated against work. So every workplace must hire X amount of people. And so you can tie it to health. They have repeatedly failed to protect the public, by wrongly insisting on January 2020 that there was no human-to-human transmissions of COVID. They were ineffective during the Ebola outbreak. They were also ineffective against the SARS outbreak. And Reform UK, under Farage, also wants to slash the World Health Organization's budget of £5.5 billion, which is somewhere closer to $7 billion US. See? They want to shut them down also because of this scary little line. And prevent mission creep if and when the WHO uses future COP climate conferences to make changes to the treaty behind closed doors. The reason why it seems as though a lot of the same problems are happening in Europe that are happening here is because there is a worldwide effort. I think it stems mostly from the left to form these bodies that can circumnavigate the U.S. Constitution. That's what I really worry about. The rest of the world is the rest of the world. The United States is the United States. They want to use groups like the World Health Organization to get around things like the Second Amendment. Health crisis, boom. Hey, member states, you can't have this right anymore. Oh, what are we supposed to do? We got to throw out our Bill of Rights, but the World Health Organization says we should do it. That's what the politicians, that's what these people who seek to be the kings and queens of the world are all about. It might sound like I'm on some conspiracy, but this is just the steps. This is A, B, C, D, E. This is what the plan is. Why else would they do it? Do you really think that the World Health Organization can come up with a policy that works in every nation? No, they can't. Too many different variables. And why would anybody in the United States want the rest of the world or some foreign body telling us what we can or can't do? Didn't we fight a war so that we didn't have to listen to other countries? You know, earlier, unless it got edited out, you never know with me. I was talking about the different steps that the so-called climate change, climate hysteria has gone through. And in the beginning, at least in the beginning for me, the first thing we were told was that we were running out of oil. I didn't realize that at the time, that this was just the left-wing scare tactic. I don't really know what the end of fossil fuels means for these people, but I do have my own theory. And my theory is that there isn't an end to fossil fuels. Until it's gone, we're going to continue to use it. I think that's what it is. I think politicians run their mouths about it, but it's just to get votes. And some of the evidence backs up that theory. At current rates of consumption, the U.S. has at least 2 centuries of oil, report says. The 2024 North American Energy Inventory Update shows that North America, that's just the United States and Canada, has 1.6 trillion barrels of technically recoverable resources. And at the current rate of consumption, it would calculate about 227 years to deplete it all. Yeah, if it was all devoted to gasoline, we'd have 539 years because we use fossil fuels for many other things other than just gasoline. And as far as natural gas, we have 4.03 quadrillion, or whatever that number is, cubic feet of recoverable natural gas. At the current rate of consumption, that's enough gas for 130 years. That's just what's here. That's not worldwide, folks. So once again, we're not running out of oil. Once again, New York, the rivers did not freeze over as predicted back in the 80s and 90s. And we've already topped this so-called mythical 1.5 Celsius rise, and we're still alive. The earth is undergoing changes, much like the earth has always undergone changes. It has been monetized. And the politicians know that, and that's why there's no real effort. It seems right now that there's a real effort. But Biden's putting in car chargers, and Gavin Newsom subsidizing electrical usage to get votes. Because what Gavin Newsom in California has really proven, if you have a radical left governor, a radical left DA, such as George Gascon, radical mayors such as Karen Bass, you can make all kinds of stupid changes to placate your voters, get more and more and more voters locked down like California is, where a Republican, I don't know how a Republican can win in a statewide election. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to get reelected. You notice that very, very seldom do the Democrats actually turn on their own. Right now, we got AOC turning on Fetterman, because Fetterman said the Senate hearings where they got all drunk, I guess, and were insulting each other was like the Jerry Springer show. But that's rare. And that doesn't really affect anything. You know, one thing about common sense is that you look at examples, either historical examples or current examples happening somewhere other than your particular area, to see how things go. Ireland is at a boiling point after mass immigration. The thing about Ireland is it's like the United States without Fox News. It's just all liberal media who keep the stories down, who contextualize, and basically are propaganda machines. And for a long time now, Ireland has basically had an open border policy. This is part of that worldwide effort, folks. It's the way it works. But they're upset about the Irish government's unwavering commitment to housing and feeding an unprecedented influx of migrants in the wake of severe housing and cost of living crisis for the citizens of Ireland. The open border globalist agenda that's putting the needs of the migrants ahead of the citizens. And they're protesting now because they didn't know. They didn't see it coming. Well, we could see these problems coming. We could see what's happening over there. Right now in the Netherlands, they're thinking of straight up just deporting people en masse because it's a failure. The open border has just led to an influx of people who are just going to take advantage of the situation. We see it here. We see it here where people who are illegally in this country are demanding cities provide them fresh, culturally appropriate ingredients. They want things that citizens don't get, and cities are giving it to them. When all they need to do is look across the fucking pond and they'll see that this does not end well. This does not end well. But they keep doing it because they have us so divided. They count the numbers and they know what they can get away with. They have their plans. And we're just pawns in that fucking game. And the only way we can ever win this game and try to get things back to a better world is if we unite in the middle and reject these two fucking parties. And nothing shows that more than this LA Times article. And this is the fucking LA Times. That's the propaganda machine for the Democrats in California. California bill to scrutinize new electric charge dies in Assembly Committee. They thought that you should see power lines in Palmdale, so power lines in Palmdale. But they killed this bill, AB 1999. The reason this was brought up is they are going to add a surcharge to every electric bill. And in a lot of cases, it's going to raise people's bills. And it's to offset, and let's just get into it. So 2 Democratic committee members voted for the bill. The rest withheld, which basically puts it in an envelope that's been fucking forgotten about. But legislators said this week they have received more calls from constituents about the new $24.15 a month electric charge than any other subject. Because we know we're about to get screwed. You know what the worst part is? They're going to lower the rate that we pay per kilowatt hour. But with the added surcharge, most people are going to be paying more. Okay? See right there. The Public Utilities Commission, which is led by Newsom appointees, approved the charge last week. In return for paying the new fee, consumers will get a lower rate for each kilowatt of hour of power that they use. The Newsom administration says the new billing structure is needed to encourage more people to buy electric cars and replace gas appliances, which would reduce the use of planet-warming fossil fuels. I'm sure fossil fuels do warm the planet, not enough to make any difference. But now he's going to go around and say, look, I lowered the cost per kilowatt hour. But then you just add a fee to make it higher. But you're going to go around, I know he's going to go around and lie about this. I lowered the rates. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And when people, look at this, a coalition of 250 consumers and other groups have been protesting against the new monthly charge, saying that millions of Californians who live in apartments or small houses that use little electricity will see their bills increase to subsidize those using far more power. Our rates are already the second highest. So a study showed that 3.9 million households will pay $65 to $225 more per year under the new billing structure. People with solar panels will also be subjected to the monthly charge. So even if you thought that leasing those panels from the company was going to save you money on your electric bill, fuck you. Now, maybe this is the way to go. Okay, maybe Newsom's on to something here. Maybe this is a good plan. More than likely, it's a bad plan. More than likely, it's going to shaft us in the beehole. But do we get to have a discussion about it? No. No discussion. What you going to do? Vote Republican? You're not, are you? So many people out there are never going to vote Republican for fear of abortion being made illegal. So fuck you. We're going to do what we want. Look at the power that I exert over you as the puppet master. That's what these people on both sides of the fence would like. But the left has a much more deadly result. We can look through history in current day and see what this Marxist socialist communism really looks like. We can see the failures. We are not better than other countries. We are the best, I think, personally. But we don't possess the ability to take something that failed and failed and failed and make it succeed. It's a failure. Like I said a couple weeks ago, we're not a melting pot. We're a salad bar. Everybody's in individual groups now. These individual groups are going to start fighting and start wanting things that the other side's not willing to give. And the puppet masters up there are just going to take control and go with whatever side gives them more votes. Not what's right, not what's good for us. And with that California electrical charge, when we ask, hey, wait a minute, beep, beep, how was this all passed? What's going on with this? This isn't, something seems off about this. What do they say? We are a democratically controlled state. California has a lot of great things about it, most of which the government could take no credit for. All right? In fact, none of them. Because it pretty much ends with the scenery and the climate. And that's why people come here. And that's why we have, just like New York, we have lots of options for entertainment and places to eat. And hey, but those places to eat are going to disappear. Because to get votes, Gavin and his people have done everything to cripple the restaurant industry, knowing full well how it was going to end, but they just wanted the votes. Ooh. The things that are wrong in California is we rank down at the bottom in the categories where you want to rank at the top. And we rank at the top where you want to be ranked at the bottom. Like unemployment. We're the worst. Why are we the worst? Because we attract people like that. We do. It's their policies. That's what's got to change. And one of the only ways it's going to change, like here in California, is if instead of saying, when they say, what you going to do? Vote Republican? You say, I'm voting purple. Okay, Copious, I'm purple state. So are you. Love one another. Be good to people, Drink your fluids. Don't be stupid. And, let's welcome Gavin back from the Vatican by dancing it out.